Without a second-round pick this year, where does this group fit in for you guys?
I mean, we actually see some of these guys around our pick. You know, I think the general consensus online isn't always what the teams themselves think. You know, I think from our team needs and fits and that sort of stuff, we kind of block out all of the mock drafts online and stuff. So, you know, range is kind of a in the eye of the beholder thing in this business, and I think that's kind of how we approach the draft more than, you know, what everyone else thinks of guys.
What stood out to you about this group today?
They really they competed. I think the energy level was great throughout, and we've got the kind of like a conditioning drill at the end, and hands down, like the full group, there were no guys that really like ran out of gas, you know, which is pretty impressive. So for them to bring it at that level, then to pick each other up and push each other in the final drill as well, it was good to see.
With a player with the skill set that Caleb has, is it tougher to evaluate a guy who has kind of a unique mix of things like that?
Yes and no. I mean, a lot of what he does and brings to the table translates pretty well to the NBA, to where, yeah, it's definitely, you have to kind of get him in certain situations against certain players to where you get an idea of what he can do at the NBA level. In college, a lot of times he was the biggest, strongest guy that was, you know, pushing guys around and doing what he wanted to, and so you have to kind of imagine it and see him against the more of the NBA bigs and know, or try to figure out, is what he's doing, is it gonna translate? And so I think that he showed us a lot today, and I think from just, you know, following him so closely over the last couple of years, you know, we're pretty comfortable with what he's doing to have success at the next level.
A guy like that who's changed his body in the ways that he has the last few years, does that signal anything to you guys about, you know, the work ethic or the mentality you're dealing with?
I think it's definitely the type of thing you look for in a guy, to where he's clearly working on improving, not only as a player but also, you know, physically. He's got some drive. It's obvious that he's not content with, you know, just being the player he used to be. Like he's trying to transform himself into you know, the types of guys that have success at the next level, and to see the strides he's made over the last couple of years is pretty remarkable. In
the case of Nickel, it's kind of the counter, 16 minutes of action on him in the last 2 years. How is the process different for a guy like that who hasn't played much at all recently?
I mean, he's interesting in terms of, he was always really intriguing his first year at Memphis, and then the transfer, and then you know, not playing much at all at Virginia. There's still that sense of intrigue with him, to where we really wanted to kind of get him up close, get to know him a little bit, and see him, to see what he's been up to, and see where he's at physically and development-wise. And he came up injured in one of the early drills today, so we didn't really get to see that much of him again today. But, you know, still he showed us enough flashes to where you see where that intrigue comes from and why he was so highly regarded at his first year at Memphis.
In the case of him and a guy like Dotson, who both, you know, have some things in their college history, how important is the interview part of this process for you guys, and then how important is the research you'll do on those guys, you know, talking to coaches or whoever outside of this environment?
I think the background research is by far the most important, because it's, yeah, I mean, they're usually, when you're you know, digging around and just trying to learn about guys, like, people are usually pretty honest, and a lot of times you hear, you know, multiple sides of the history and sort of things like that, so you get a pretty good feel for who these guys are as people. And you know, the interviews they're very helpful and they're important, and I think somewhat you know that, you know, there's been some coaching involved and there's been some preparation, to where you have to kind of dig, like cut through that a little bit, but at the same time you get to see these people as people, and that's the most important thing, and you just kind of learn about them a little bit and see what they're like to staff members around the building and the other participants and that sort of thing, and you generally get a pretty good sense for the kind of guys they would be in a locker room off of that.